Hello everyone. I want to preface everything I'm going to say in this video by saying that I do like Monster Hunter Wilds and think it's a fun game. So despite the fact that this video is going to be quite critical, it does not diminish or attack your ability or mine to enjoy the game. I will also be avoiding spoilers in this video, and all footage is from the game's first chapter. This whole dissection is based off the first week of launch, no title updates. I think it's no secret to anyone at this point that Monster Hunter is a mainstream franchise now with massive popularity. What once was a niche series for dedicated gamers is now one of Capcom's flagship properties, having broken colossal sales records for them with the introduction of Monster Hunter World. That very game introduced a litany of changes that caused some manner of friction in the veteran fanbase. Scout flies, moving while healing, auto-crafting, mounted monsters being vulnerable to attack while you're on them. These were all changes made in the name of pushing the franchise's unfriendliness down to make it more accessible to newcomers. Ultimately, I don't think that these were problematic issues myself, but they certainly were indicative of the future.
Here we go. Hold on.
Monster Hunter Wilds takes its accessibility approach even further with the addition of the Sacred, a second weapon to equip, gathering with the Slinger, and removing the need to scout for monsters whatsoever. The Sacred itself, while a lovely creature in design, is one of the game's biggest sore points. The game wants desperately for your Sacred to guide you on its own to your target, which is convenient, but it also takes the player out of the driver's seat, both literally and figuratively. It is the game effectively saying, look, I know you just want to kill something, so I'm going to take you there and you can do whatever you want on the way. Need to gather something? Most things can be grabbed from a distance with the Slinger while you ride. Gotta sharpen? You can do that while climbing a sheer cliff if you need to. Healing up? No problem. Do it on the move. All these things can be done in the middle of battle as well, without sacrificing your mobility whatsoever. And an even more egregious step, the player is capable of calling for their Sacred while tumbling on the ground, and their bird will scoop them up while providing invulnerability frames with no risk. This makes the bird, which initially seems like a simple mount, an extremely powerful tool to have mobility in almost any situation, even when doing actions that would normally restrict your movement for balance purposes. The actual biggest problem in Monster Hunter Wilds, however, is the sheer amount of power that the player now possesses. The addition of the wound mechanic particularly allows the player to take advantage of special focus attacks after leaving marks on the monster, which doesn't sound like an issue on paper. However, these attacks are wholly beneficial to the player with almost no risk whatsoever. If you land a strike on one of these wounds, there are potentially 4 benefits that can happen all at once. You are guaranteed invulnerability during the attack's animation after it connects. You're guaranteed a part drop. Depending on your weapon, you may get a special benefit, such as the spinning blade mode for charge blade, or a whole gauge upgrade for longsword. To top it all off, the monster will also guarantee to flinch whenever the animation finishes, providing a moment of reprieve for the entire party, and depending on the monster's state, it may even result in a knockdown. A party of players can play suboptimally and still prevent the monster from taking any offensive action for upwards of a minute utilizing these wounds, and they may very well create more in the downtime that they open for the players. I think a solution to the wounds would be to simply remove monster flinching and toppling as a result of them. I know it wouldn't make sense, as it should hurt the monster to hit them in an open wound, but as it stands, it results in far too much pressure being removed from the hunters balance-wise. Compounding onto this is the monster's lack of answers to the newfound power level that players have. Certain aspects of the franchise, such as wind pressure and tremors, have been slowly becoming less common in the newer entries of the game. In Wilds in particular, there's a distinct lack of both of these, as I did not notice the former at all, and only for one monster on the latter. This presents the hunter with less obstacles to learn and avoid, and more importantly, less skills to consider when making an endgame build. Why would anyone slot decorations for wind pressure negation if they never felt bothered by the mechanic beforehand? This leads into the whole reason for my concerns over all of these things, despite enjoying the game for over 60 hours at the time of writing this. Monster Hunter has been a series that has a sort of power treadmill for the player to trot along as they play, hunting a monster repeatedly to make their next upgrade if they hit a wall. By making the game distinctly easier for the hunters, they can get by with weaker weapons and less defense, removing a lot of the gameplay loop as they progress. I personally used the lowest tier high rank Lala Barina dual blades for the entirety of high rank. There were about 4 upgrades available that I never felt the need to obtain. I was also able to see the game's full content through the end using the matching high rank armor set thanks to the strength of armor spears, with only feeling any pressure from weakness to fire. When almost every hunt ends in about 10 minutes on average, if not less, despite making no use of elemental weaknesses or even knowing the fight well, what reason do I have to want to farm for better gear? If I already feel like I'm steamrolling the monsters, then I have no reason to focus on their weaknesses or build armor to counter their elemental strengths. I have personally turned to mods to empower the monsters and make my build more important in the post-game, but those who don't know how to mod or can't due to their console of choice have no such luxury. While I'm sure we'll get more powerful monsters added in future title updates, and especially in a future expansion pack a la Iceborne or Sunbreak, I can't help but feel like the base game is lacking a lot of its soul at launch. I clocked in the final hunt of the story with one friend at the 27-hour mark, having touched no mods for the duration of that runtime. It was an enjoyable time, but we both felt that the sting had been almost fully removed from the monsters, having failed no hunts the entire time. Another part of this is likely in part to our Palicos now having access to their full kit they had in Iceborne, without having to pick and choose, and they could heal us very frequently. Just more power into the hands of the hunters. Ultimately, what we have in Wilds is a game with a bit of an identity crisis. It has massive open areas to explore, but gives the player all the tools to ignore it and very little reason to engage with it. You always know where monsters are, and your Sacred will take you straight to them, often on paths the hunter can't take without them. It has very interesting and intimidating new monster designs, but no bite to back up their bark. There is a huge emphasis on multiplayer with random players as there was in World, but often the hunt is halfway over by the time a player joins and loads in. None of these things make it a bad game, but they certainly mean it has lost a lot of the spirit of the series, and I can only hope that updates will bring it more in line to where it should be to stand with its otherwise stellar qualities. More than that, hopefully in the future we can count on Capcom to give us a game that feels appropriate at launch, so that title updates feel like nice additions rather than us being drip-fed the rest of the game that we bought and wanted in the first place. I suppose only time will tell, but in the meantime remember that it's okay to be critical of something you enjoy, and it's okay to disagree with others as well. Let me know in the comments what you think about Wilds and the franchise on the whole, and if you're interested in more content like this, please like and subscribe to let me know so that I can make more like this for you. In the meantime, have a great time zone wherever you are, and I'll see you next time.